Welcome to the Shepherd's Chapel Network Family Bible Study Hour with Pastor Arnold Murray. Wisdom is understanding God's Word. Pastor Murray's unique teaching approach brings God's Word alive with meaning as he takes you on a chapter-by-chapter, verse-by-verse study of God's letter to you, the Bible. And now, here is Dennis Murray. Good day to you. God bless you. Welcome to Shepherd's Chapel. Welcome to this Family Bible Study Hour. We're ready to get back into our Father's Word, the book of Numbers, the Hebrew Bimidbar, the fourth book of Moses. And Bimidbar, of course, means in the wilderness. And that's where we find the children of Israel starting in the wilderness of Sinai at the beginning of this book and making our way around through several other wildernesses by the time that this book is over. Well, we finished up yesterday, and we had just numbered the children, actually the fighting men of Israel from age 20 and upwards that were able to go to war, and found that there were 550,000 fighting men among the children of Israel. And I want to point out to you that only 2 of this 603,550 will actually enter the promised land. By God's intent? No, that wasn't God's intent. And that was the whole purpose of this numbering or mustering of the troops, was to get Israel into the land of Canaan and to take the land, which was going to be quite a war to do with all of the Hittites, Jebusites, Amalekites that were occupying the land of Canaan at the time. But only 2 out of these number would actually end up going into the promised land, and those being Caleb and Joshua. But with that, we got to chapter 1, verse 47. We finished up there in learning that the Levites were not to be numbered among the other tribes of Israel. They will be numbered, but they were not to be numbered among this particular group. So with that, we'll ask for that word of wisdom from our Father in the name of Yeshua, Jesus' precious name, and we're going to pick it up, chapter 1, verse 48 today. For the Lord had spoken unto Moses, saying, this is the reason why that we wouldn't number the Levites, only thou shalt not number the tribe of Levi. Levi, by the way, in the Hebrew means joined. Neither take the sum of them among the children of Israel. And I brought out to you each yesterday as we went through the tribes who the mother of that particular child was, and Levi, the son of Jacob, was mothered by Leah. And we'll go to verse 50. But thou shalt appoint the Levites. This word appoint in the Hebrew is pakad, and it means to charge the Levites over the tabernacle of testimony and over all the vessels thereof and over all the things that belong to it. They shall bear the tabernacle or carry it, all the vessels thereof, and they shall minister unto it and shall encamp round about the tabernacle. In other words, when Israel encamped at night, the Levites were to camp immediately in the area of the tabernacle or around the tabernacle, with the other tribes forming a circle around about, which we'll get to in chapter 2. Now, all these furniture and vessels of the sanctuary, of course, we're talking about the Ark of the Covenant, the table of the showbread, the candlestick, the menorah, and all the vessels that pertain thereto. So quite a lot of things. If you're interested in a study on that and aren't familiar with it, you might check out starting along about chapter 25 in the book of Exodus. That's where God gives Moses the instructions on the pattern that all of these things are to be made after. Verse 51, and when the tabernacle setteth forward, the Levites shall take it down. And when the tabernacle is to be pitched, the Levites shall set it up. And the stranger that cometh nigh shall be put to death. Now, the Israelites moved, as we'll find out in a later chapter, when God instructed them to move. He was over the tabernacle as a cloud by day and as a fire by night. And when it was time for Israel to move, God, being in the form of the cloud, would move out ahead of them, leading them in the direction that they should go. And it wasn't a daily thing. He might travel for 3 days, and then they would pitch and stay there for 3 days. But it was as the Lord instructed that the Israelites moved from place to place. Now, this stranger be put to death in this verse. There's a little bit of controversy among scholars as to what this particularly means. It could be that we were talking here more of the furniture, the things in the Holy of Holies, the Ark of the Covenant, for example, the table of showbread, which I just mentioned. And those things were only to be taken care of and prepared for moving by Aaron and his sons, the Levitical priests, if you would. Then the others that were responsible for moving the items in the Holy of Holies were the Kohathites. We'll see when we get to chapter 4. So it's a little bit of controversy as to whether this one being put to death were a non-son of Aaron preparing the things in the Holy of Holies, or if it were a member of the tribe that wasn't pertaining to Levi that came near to the tabernacle. But we'll leave that for your own discretion. 52, and the children of Israel shall pitch their tents, every man by his own camp, and every man by his own standard throughout their hosts. Now, these are all established in chapter 2 that we'll get to in a moment, but the camps, each camp was actually made up of 3 tribes of Israel, we'll see in a moment, and the standard is basically a flag, if you will, with the insignia, if you will, of the main tribe that is the head over that particular camp. Verse 53, but the Levites shall pitch round about the tabernacle of testimony, that there be no wrath upon the congregation of the children of Israel. And the Levites shall keep, this word in the Hebrew is shamar, and it means to guard, the charge of the tabernacle of the testimony. And this charge means to take care to make sure that things are revered as they should be, that they're clean as they should be, and that they're used in the method that Yahweh had intended for them to be used. These were the charge of the Levites. 54, and the children of Israel did according to all that the Lord commanded Moses, so did they. And I can't help but wondering how long will this last, and I can assure you it does not last all the way through the book of Numbers. But so far, so good. They're following the word of the Lord as Moses commanded. In chapter 2, we have the order of the encampment, and the point I think that the Father would have us understand from here is that we should be orderly and disciplined in our own lives. And I can imagine as Israel was coming out of Egypt, what a disorganized group it must have looked like, with everyone making their way, just coming out of bondage. So the Lord's fixing to take care of that little matter, and he wants his army, which is what we're talking about here, to be organized and disciplined. Chapter 2, verse 1, and the Lord spake unto Moses and unto Aaron, saying, verse 2, every man of the children of Israel shall pitch by his own standard. Now, this word standard in the Hebrew is dekal, and it can be, I think of it just as a flag. With the ensign of their father's house far off about the tabernacle of the congregation shall they pitch. Now, you might have a little trouble with this, but think of the ensign as the flag of the smaller, not the smaller tribes, but the standard was the flag of the tribe that was assigned to be the leader of a particular camp, of which there were 4 on each side of the tabernacle. The standard of that was the ensign for those 4 particular tribes. And this ensign, as it's followed there in this verse, the ensign that follows the standard is the sign of the tribes that served under the lead tribe in each particular camp. And this flag was a smaller flag, most likely, and was the flag that represented their father's house, or even possibly a subdivision in their father's house. Verse 3, and on the east side, toward the rising of the sun, shall they of the standard of the camp of Judah pitch throughout their armies. And Nahshon, the son of Amminadab, shall be captain of the children of Judah. Now, Judah, and by the way, I should mention that nowhere in the Old Testament does it actually line out exactly what these standards or ensigns are worth. And I'll say that historically, I think the documentation at best can be found. The tribe of Judah is thought to have been the lion, or Leo as far as the zodiac is concerned. And here we have our friend Nahshon again, the captain of Judah, again, that being the seed line through which Christ would come. Verse 4, And his host, or army, and those that were numbered of them were 314,600. This being the same number of the fighting men that were numbered in chapter 1, 74,600 in the army of Judah. And those that do pitch next unto him shall be the tribe of Issachar. And Nethaneel, the son of Zuar, shall be captain of the children of Issachar. So we find Issachar would have been situated on the northeast corner between Judah and Naphtali. Verse 6, and his host, or army, and those that were numbered thereof were 54,400. And the sign or ensign of Issachar was cancer, and that most likely being the emblem on the flag of Issachar. 7, then the tribe of Zebulun and Eliab, the son of Helon, shall be captain of the children of Zebulun. And Zebulun then would be on the southeast corner of the encampment. Verse 8, and his host and those that were numbered thereof were 57,400. Zebulun, the sign of that is thought to have been Virgo. Verse 9, and all that were numbered in the camp of Judah, and again the camp meaning that we have all three tribes on this side, the east side of the tabernacle, belonging to the camp of Judah, were 100,000 and fourscore thousand and 6,400. That's 186,400. Throughout their armies, these shall first set forth. And one thing you'll note about this camp is that all of them were children of Leah. And I think the point, too, that the standard of the lead tribe on each of the four sides of Israel was more or less to unite that particular army. And if you think about it, there were basically four divisions of the army of God. Verse 10, when did we get to 9? All that were numbered in the camp, well, we got about halfway through it, 64,000, 6,400 throughout their armies, these shall first set forth. Now, this also is important because there's an order about which the tribes were to pack up and move out. And so we see that the camp of Judah was the first one to move out. It was kind of interesting, and we'll learn in chapter 10 that God instructed Moses to have 2 silver trumpets made. And as you can imagine, when you've got this many number of people encamped in the desert, we're not talking about a couple of 100 yards. It's over probably a couple of square miles this number of people would be residing. So they had to have some means, and as I said earlier, it was the Lord that decided when it was time to move out. But the priests then had the responsibility, the sons of Aaron, of blowing the trumpets. And the trumpets were used for a variety of things. One, to move out, and that was given with several short blasts of the trumpet, which would then indicate that it's time for the camp of Judah to move out. When Judah would moved out, then they would blow in the second group, which was Reuben, we'll find here in a minute, would head out. Also, the trumpets were used to call the congregation together. This would have been a long, steady peal, if you will, of the trumpets on both trumpets. And if only one trumpet sounded, then that was calling the princes of the tribes of Israel together for a meeting. I thought that was interesting. Verse 10, on the south side shall be the standard of the camp of Reuben, according to their armies, and the captain of the children of Reuben shall be Eleazar, and the son of Shadur. And this would have been on the south side of the tabernacle. And you might note that these captains that are named here are the same individuals that God called out to help Aaron and Moses number the children in chapter 1. And I gave you the meanings of those names at that point, so we won't be redundant with that. Verse 11, and his host and those that were numbered thereof were 46,500. The sign for Reuben was the man, or also known as Aquarius on the zodiac. If you have trouble with the zodiac, you know, a lot of people think of zodiac and they think of astrology, and that's nothing to do with this. And if you have a companion Bible, you might want to check out Appendix 12, and it might help you understand a little better the meaning of the stars. In Genesis, we're told that God gave us the stars for signs, and that's actually what the zodiac is, are represented by certain stars in different formations. And the Appendix 12 in the Companion Bible will help you understand that maybe. Verse 12, and those which pitch by him shall be the tribe of Simeon, and the captain of the children of Simeon shall be Shelumiel, the son of Zurishaddai. And here we would find Simeon on the southeast between Reuben and Zebulun. Verse 13, and his host, or army, and those that were numbered of them were 59,300. And Simeon, the sign was Pisces, or fish, or fishes, if you will, would have been probably the sign on their flag, or ensign. 14, then the tribe of Gad, and the captain of the sons of Gad shall be Eliasaph, the son of Reuel. Here we have a mistake by probably a copyist. This Reuel in chapter 1, verse 14, and other places, chapter 10, verse 20, and I believe one place in chapter 7 is listed as Duiel, and this is thought to be a copyist error. But here we would have Gad on the southwest corner between Manasseh and Reuben. 15, and his host, and those that were numbered of them were 45,650. And the ensign of Gad was Aries, which was probably a ram or a lamb on the ensign or flag. 16, all that were numbered in the camp of Reuben were 100,050 and 1,450 throughout their armies, and they shall set forth in the second rank. So as Judah was instructed by the trumpets to move out, as soon as the sons of Aaron, the priest, saw that Judah had moved out, they would then blow the alarm sound, which is the short burst on the trumpet again, which was the indication that it was time for Reuben to set forth. And let's go to verse 17. Then the tabernacle of the congregation shall set forward. So here then, following Reuben, we would have the Levites and the contents of the tabernacle being moved as the tribes of Israel are moving out. Set forward with the camp of the Levites in the midst of the camp. As they encamp, so shall they set forward, every man in his place by their standards. And the sign of the Levites in ancient times was the altar. In the form of the zodiac, though, it's Libra. And another thing that you'll note, that two of the divisions of the army would always be in front of the Levites in the tabernacle, and two divisions would be behind. Verse 18, on the west side shall be the standard of the camp of Ephraim. And remember, each camp is made up of 3 tribes. Ephraim, by the way, was the younger brother to Manasseh, but through a blessing he received in Genesis chapter 48, verses 14 through 20, ended up being the standard bearer or the head tribe in this particular camp. Ephraim, according to their armies, and the captain of the sons of Ephraim shall be Elishama, the son of Amihud. And then we would find them on the west side in the center. 19, and his host, or army, and those that were numbered of them were 40,500. And the sign for Ephraim was the ox. Manasseh also was the ox, and Manasseh and Ephraim were actually known as the 2 horns of Taurus, which the horns being symbolic of power. Verse 20, and by him shall be the tribe of Manasseh, this was his brother, and the captain of the children of Manasseh shall be Gamaliel, the son of Pedazur. And they would be located in the southwest corner between Gad and Ephraim. So if you can kind of picture the tabernacle in the center and then all the other tribes around them. Verse 22, then the tribe of Benjamin, and the captain of the sons of the Benjamin shall be Abidan, the son of Gideoni. And they would be located on the northwest corner between Asher and Ephraim. 23, and his host, and those that were numbered of them, were 35,400. And the zodiac sign for Benjamin was Gemini, and most likely the sign or what was on their flag. 24, All that were numbered of the camp of Ephraim were 100,000 and 8,000 and 100 throughout their armies. That's 108,100 throughout their armies, and they shall go forward in the third rank. Ephraim, Manasseh, and Benjamin were all descendants of Rachel, and were all united together as one army, the third division. And I think I forgot to mention to you, I did mention that Judah, all of them were of the camp of Judah. All of them were offspring of Leah. The same was the case with the standard of Reuben, with the one exception of Gad, and that particular son of Jacob was born of Zilpah, who was a maid of Leah. Okay, verse 25. The standard of the camp of Dan shall be on the north side by their armies, and the captain of the children of Dan shall be Ahiezer, the son of Ammishaddai. Now the sign of the tribe of Dan was the eagle, and most likely on their flag. And now that we've got the four standards, I'd like to point out to you, and many of you probably already have I know that if you've been in through Ezekiel with Pastor Murray, you know this, but these particular standards, with Judah being the lion, Ephraim being the ox or calf, Reuben being a man, and Dan the eagle, in Ezekiel chapter 1, these are the faces of the living creatures that were, if you would, in a protecting formation around the throne of God. And then in Revelation chapter 4, verse 7, you find these same faces on the living, I think they're called beasts in Revelation, but if you take that back to the Greek, it's zoon, which is the living creatures as well. So just a note there that I think is very interesting, and if you're familiar with the horses of the Bible and the vehicles that the cherubims and the throne of God were transported in, I know my mind can take off, my imagination can take off pretty good of what these faces that Ezekiel saw might have been in relation to the standard of the four camps of Israel being in a protective position around the throne of God. And just as they are actually in four positions, protecting positions around the throne of God at this time, which is the Holy of Holies, the Ark of the Covenant, which is centered in the center of the camp. So, interesting. 26. And his host, and those that were numbered of them, were 62,700. And Dan, again, was the eagle, and the zodiac sign Scorpio. I might mention that Dan, the eagle, was substituted for the serpent, which you will find is the sign for him in Genesis 49:17. And I guess I can see why Dan probably wanted to change it from the serpent to knowing what the serpent represented. Verse 27, and those that encamp by him shall be the tribe of Asher, and the captain of the children of Asher shall be Pagiel, the son of Ochran. And so we find them on the northwest corner between Benjamin and Dan. And again, I'll point out that each of these captains was the same person that was named by God in chapter 1 as who was to be responsible for numbering the people. But when you think about it, if they're assigned to be numbering the people, we're talking about the man that's in charge over these troops. So I can see why they would want him to be directly involved in numbering his troops. Verse 28, and his host and those that were numbered with them were 41,500. The sign of Asher was Sagittarius, which is the archer, and most likely was what appeared on their ensign. Then the tribe of Naphtali, and the captain of the children of Naphtali shall be Ahira, the son of Enan. And these would be located on the northeast corner between Issachar and Dan. And his host, and those that were numbered of them, were 53,400. And the ensign of Naphtali, or the zodiac sign, was Capricornus. Their ensign was probably the goat. 31. All they that were numbered in the camp of Dan were 100,050 and 7,600. They shall go hindmost with their standards. So that should be translated according to their host. It reads there in the English like they had more than one standard over the camp of Dan, which would not have been the case. There was only one standard that united this whole group together. So the camp of Dan was made up of Dan, Asher, and Naphtali. So altogether, we have 4 divisions in the army of God. Judah, 186,400. Reuben, 151,450. Ephraim, 108,100. And Dan, 157,600. This making up the total that we saw in chapter 1 of 603,550. Brave fighting men, well, we'll see as we work our way through this chapter, this book. Let's go to verse 32. These are those which are numbered of the children of Israel by the house of their fathers. All those that were numbered of the camps throughout their hosts or armies were 600,000, 3,550. 33. But the Levites were not numbered among the children of Israel, as the Lord commanded Moses. We'll see why in a moment, but we will certainly see that they were a part of God's army as well as the rest. 34. And the children of Israel did according to all that the Lord commanded Moses, so they pitched by their standards, and so they set forward every one after their families according to the house of their fathers. All is orderly and disciplined when you do things God's way. And so far, you know, the children of Israel are doing good. They're following the command of the Lord at Moses' word. In chapter 3, we get to the numbering of the Levites, and as I mentioned in the last lecture, the Levites are actually numbered twice. The first time, which we'll see in chapter 3, is a numbering from the age of 1 month old, in that God will instruct Moses to redeem the firstborn males of the children of Israel, but instead of taking the firstborn male of Israel, he will take a Levite for each one of those, substituting the Levites. Thus, the reason that they're numbered this first time from the age of 1 month and up. Chapter 3, verse 1. These also are the generations. This word generations in the Hebrew is toledah, and it means descendants of Aaron and Moses in the day that the Lord spake with Moses in Mount Sinai. And I think the reason that both are listed here, even though the following verses will only list the descendants of Aaron, is that we're talking about the tribe of Levi, which Moses, you know, from the time that God addressed him face to face, Moses certainly, you know, was a spiritual leader of the tribes of Israel, as well as one that they looked to as a governmental leader. But verse 2, and these are the names of the sons of Aaron, and this being the priest line, of course. Nadab was the firstborn, and Abihu, Eleazar, and Ithamar. And let's go ahead with 3. These are the names of the sons of Aaron, the priests, which were anointed, whom he consecrated to minister in the priest's behalf. And I'll mention that the descendants of Moses, he had 2 sons by Zipporah. That would be Gershom, that's with an M, not to be confused with the Gershon with an N, Gershonites, and Eleazar, not Eleazar. These 2 you can find listed in 1 Chronicles 23, and they are listed among the family of the Kohathites, which is one of the sons of Levi, and that happens also to be the tribe through which Aaron and Moses and Miriam were born. Verse 4, and Nadab and Abihu died before the Lord when they offered strange fire before the Lord in the wilderness of Sinai, and they had no children, and Eleazar and Ithamar ministered in the priest office in the sight of Aaron their father. And this in the sight of Aaron their father is specified because the whole period of Aaron's life, these were the only 2 priests that he knew. His sons, Ithamar and Eleazar, did not have any children while he was living, or at least old enough to be in the priesthood. So these 2 were it as far as the sons of Aaron were concerned at this time. Now, Nadab and Abihu, you'll find that story or event recorded in Leviticus chapter 10. It happens that it was just shortly after the priest had been consecrated, I believe in chapter 8 of Leviticus, and I think the boys must have been partying a little bit after all these good things happening to them, and let the altar fire go down, and I think they probably ran and got some buffalo chips or something of that nature and threw them on the fire, and God struck them dead for it. Shortly thereafter, in that same chapter, the Lord gives the command that the priests are not to partake of strong drink while performing the duties of the sanctuary. And I think that's indication of probably what loosened the boys up to the point that they thought they could grab some buffalo chips and throw them on the altar of God, which would have been an abomination to God. Verse 5, Eleazar too, by the way, who of course was the second high priest following Aaron, is the equivalent of Lazarus in the Greek. Verse 5, and the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, bring the tribe of Levi near and present them before Aaron the priest, that they may minister unto him. Now this word near is only used in other places in the Bible for a subservient position, a position that a servant would take as he was preparing to hear the instructions of his master. And I think that means that the Levites, the reason this was done and it said this way was for them to understand you are subservient to Aaron and you are expected to do what he and his sons tell you to do. Verse 7, and they shall keep his charge and the charge of the whole congregation before the tabernacle of the congregation to do the service of the tabernacle. And there was a lot of work to be done in the tabernacle and as we'll get into some of the sacrifices and things of that nature, the work involved in tearing down the tabernacle alone, when you consider how large it was, and then having to load it up and carry it and taking care of putting it all back together. There was a lot of work involved in taking care of everything, keeping it clean. Verse 8, and they shall keep all the instruments of the tabernacle of the congregation and the charge of the children of Israel to do the service of the tabernacle. Verse 9, and thou shalt give the Levites unto Aaron and to his sons. They are wholly given. Now this is wholly given is stated emphatically unto him out of the children of Israel. And also this wholly given, take that back in your Strongs and you'll find that it's Nethinim. And now this is not to be confused, and the Nethinim means called, by the way, or wholly given, given is what it means. And these Nethinim are not to be confused with the non-Israelitish Nethinim that we find recorded in Joshua chapter 9, which were assigned to take care of menial tasks such as chopping wood or hauling water. But unfortunately, as Israel declined further and further, they not only were taking care of chopping wood and hauling water, they were also taking over the duties of the priest and making records, etc., which I'm sure God found as an abomination as well. Verse 10, and thou shalt appoint Aaron and his sons, and they shall wait on their priest's office, and the stranger that cometh nigh shall be put to death. And again, as in chapter 1, verse 51, it's not clear as to whether this is talking about the people that are not the sons of Aaron going into the Holy of Holies, or if we're talking about non-Levites being involved with the tearing down, moving, or reconstruction of the tabernacle when they reached where they went. And I think with that, we'll leave it there for today and pick it up tomorrow. I want to state again that I think the main thing that we should get out of the book of Numbers, and we discussed it yesterday briefly, why should we be studying this? And as we went to 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 11, these are in samples. These things that happened to these people in the book of Numbers are in samples and warnings for this generation, the generation of the fig tree. And I think what God would have us learn from this is that He wants us to trust Him, and He wants us to believe in Him. And that's the problem all throughout Numbers. We'll see as we go through the various chapters, idolatry, following pagan deities of other peoples. It just, I know, crushed his heart. He has emotions just like we do, and all he wanted was his children to trust in him. He told them, this promised land is no problem. I'll be with you. I give you the victory already. I'll be out in front of you defeating the peoples that you come up if you'll just listen to me, trust me, and do things my way. The first batch didn't, so we'll see how all that comes out afterwards. But why don't you listen to this message just a moment.
Our Father truly loves you. I love you because you enjoy studying our Father's Word in more depth. But what's really important, He loves you for that. It really makes His day, and I want you to know that I appreciate you. We're brought to you by your tithes and offerings, and we've helped you. You help us keep coming to you. Once you do that, bless God. Know what? He will always bless you. But there's one thing that's more important than anything else. That's this, that you stay in His Word every day. In His Word is a good day, even with problems. You know why? Jesus is the living Word.
The Mark of the Beast on CD is our free introductory offer to you. What is the Mark of the Beast? Many false teachers would have you believe it will be a tattoo on your forehead or a computer chip implanted under your skin. It is getting late in the game. You need to know what the Mark of the Beast is. As it's written in Revelation chapter 13, verse 8, many will be deceived. There is no need for you to be deceived. Christ said in Mark 13:23, "Behold, I have foretold you all things." Jesus indeed told us how not to be deceived, and Pastor Arnold Murray takes you on a step-by-step study of God's Word concerning this critical subject, the Mark of the Beast. The telephone call is free. The CD is free. We don't even ask for the shipping and handling. It is free as well. All you need to do is call 800-643-4645 to request your one-time, one-per-household copy of the Mark of the Beast. You may also request your free CD by mailing your request to Shepherd's Chapel, Post Office Box 416, Gravette, Arkansas 72736. Don't be deceived by Satan. Hearing God's Word with understanding will change your life. We hope you have enjoyed studying God's Word here on the Shepherd's Chapel Family Bible Study Hour with Pastor Arnold Murray. If you would like to receive more information concerning Shepherd's Chapel, you may request our free introductory offer. Our introductory offer contains the Mark of the Beast audio tape, our monthly newsletter with a written Bible study, a tape catalog, and a list of written reference works available through Shepherd's Chapel. To request our free introductory offer by telephone, call 800-643-4645 24 hours a day. You may also request our introductory offer by writing to Shepherd's Chapel, Post Office Box 416, Gravette, Arkansas 72736. Once again, that's Shepherd's Chapel, Post Office Box 416, Gravette, Arkansas 72736. We invite you to join us for the next in-depth Bible study each weekday at this same time. Thank you for watching today's program, and God bless you.